Well, hey there, I'm Thomas, aka MrWartburg, and this is the 41st episode of the MrWartburg Show. This video is a few days late, mostly because I was waiting on some new tech, because you may notice there's not a mic in front of my face, or my shirt. Now it's on my shirt. So basically what this is it's the Audio-Technica 3350 IS. It's basically built for smartphones. Plugs into my smartphone, but unfortunately, what it doesn't do is, like on the smartphones, I can't raise the mic volume. So in post, it doesn't sound great. So what I'm actually doing is running it directly into my sister's video because it has a mic in. It's a Canon RF 500. So, you know, I can actually sync it all up, and it's a lot easier to make work, which is going to be awesome, and it's going to work great for traveling. It's battery powered too, which is why I don't think the lapel mics I'd bought for really cheap worked on this camera because they didn't have their own power. Obviously, this being a cheaper camera, didn't power them. Now the tech stuff is out of the way and the housekeeping's done, today's topic. I was initially going to do my production setup and all that software and hardware and everything I use to make videos and Twitch streams and Let's Plays and things like that, but what I decided to do was call an audible, mostly because I was waiting for this. So I actually pushed that back a month and used that week's topic, brought it forward a month, and now we're talking about it here. That would be my top 10 videos, my top 10 films, ever, regardless of genre. So we're going to dive into this quick because this seems to be a fairly short video because it's already a couple days late. And I don't have a ton of time to edit it anyway because Let's Plays take a lot of time to make, edit, and upload. Number 10 on my list would be Airplane, which I think is, without a doubt, the greatest comedy of all time. There's a reason it is on a lot of people's greatest comedy lists just because it's so freaking awesome. Endlessly quotable, got an amazingly, awesome atmosphere to it, some awesome prime Leslie Nielsen deadpan humor, great sight gags, and just tons of jokes just crammed into the script. It's just a shitload of fun from start to finish, and if you're not laughing at this movie, I don't want to know you. And if Airplane is on the really far end of the comedy spectrum, then my next film, number 9, would be on the other side of the, emotional spectrum, or at least film spectrum anyway, and that would be The Shawshank Redemption. I think it's called The Shawshank Redemption. I don't even know if there's a the. Nope, I'm not going to look it up. Shawshank Redemption is probably the best film to not win Best Picture, period. Fucking awesome. You got some really awesome, you just got a really awesome story of a guy wrongly accused and his, slow burn quest towards freedom, and a really, really awesome twist at the end. It's been overused, since this movie came out, which it was 1994, I think, the year the Forrest Gump won. Forrest Gump is not a better film than this movie. This is a better film. And, of course, Morgan Freeman, as Red, get busy living and get busy dying. Awesome line. Awesome movie. Definitely worth your time checking out. Okay, number 8, I think this is the most, recent movie on my list. And one might beat it, but I think they came out in the same year, and this came out later in that year. And that would be John Wick. I think it's one of the greatest action movies ever, period. I mean, it's right up there with the next movie on my list and the top movie on my list in terms of greatest action movies. And I'll tell you what those are in a bit. Keanu Reeves at his absolute best. Willem Dafoe remains awesome. Ian McShane's character, the guy that played Broyles in Fringe, whatever his name is, and the writing and the dialogue going on in the background and the scenes and everything, it just hints at this really big world that you're just kind of catching a little slice of. It has me super excited for the sequel, mostly because I just want to see more of not just John Wick, because John Wick is awesome, but the world that he's a part of. It was freaking cool, the glowing coins for the dead bodies and all that kind of stuff just hinted at this larger world that I would love to see more of. Alright, the next movie on my list that I mentioned, that would be Dredd 3D, of course. Whereas the 1995 Dredd kind of did everything wrong, the new Dredd does pretty much everything right, starting with having Carl Urban as Dredd. I mean, the man, he embodied Judge Dredd in that entire, 90-minute straight, pure action movie. Super simple premise, fight your way to the top, and I know The Raid did it the same year, but I haven't seen The Raid. But I mean, it's literally just people thinking of the same awesome, simple setup and executing it to damn near perfection. Olivia Thirlby, I think is how you say her last name. Her character is kind of the human eye into the story and the world of Mega City 1, and it's an awesome ride that's just nonstop from the word go, and definitely deserves a sequel and is probably never going to get one, which really sucks because it was so damn good. Okay, number 6 on the list, that's the also kind of recent one, and that would be the greatest comic book movie ever, in my opinion, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Now, I know a lot of people think it's Civil War, maybe it's The Dark Knight. I don't really count The Dark Knight as a superhero movie, or even a comic book movie. It's a thriller movie, a psychological thriller movie with comic book characters, basically. And Civil War is close to Winter Soldier, but Winter Soldier is more definitively a Captain America story. It doesn't lose the message of Captain America and what his character stands for. And I think throughout, Winter Soldier still constantly hits its mark on its story, where Civil War kind of understandably falters just because of so much awesome shit going on in Civil War, which I actually just watched the other night. Winter Soldier, I think, is the peak of all the Marvel movies, so far at least, and I don't think they're ever going to get back up to where that movie was. That scene, the opening scene on the boat with Captain America, I damn near spit out my drink in the movie theater the first time I watched it, because it was frickin' cooler than shit. And the honest trailer for it, man, those guys are awesome over at Screen Junkies, and that trailer, God, that was awesome. They didn't even have anything to bitch about it, because they're like, it's a really fucking awesome movie. So yeah, you should probably go watch Captain America Winter Soldier if you haven't yet, because it is a freaking awesome time, and you'll actually see how DC could take that and be like, oh, so you mean we could have a character talk about, like, hope and doing things for the right reasons, and he wouldn't be a boring douche? Maybe they should do that with Superman. Number 5 on my list is one of the movies that I remember watching, earliest in my childhood, and it is one of the movies that definitely really influenced what I like in movies from that point forward. That'd be Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the best of that entire trilogy, though Last Crusade actually is a very close second. Just a awesome ride with, the 1930s, Steven Spielberg, the Nazis and the whip and the Egyptian setting, and just Indy being Indy, and just a lot of really cool shit that was just a ton of fun, and for me as a kid really grabbed my imagination. And I think I even bought the Raiders of the Lost Ark. They had a Micro Machines set back when I was really into Micro Machines, and it still to this day remains one of my all-time favorite movies. Okay, 4 and 3, much like 5, are movies that I watched as a kid that I still go back and watch because they still are like touchstones of my cinema upbringing. And I do have to thank my parents and my dad specifically for having at least the next two, because my mom loves Indiana Jones as much as the next guy, or next person in general. But my dad definitely had these two, and it's awesome. I was torn between which one to list at 4 and which one to list at 3. But at the end of the day, one I'm more identify with than I do the other. So 4 is Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. The one that kickstarted my entire love of the Star Wars universe, made me a Star Wars fanboy, and I have loved the Star Wars universe since my very first watching of that 90s re-released VHS that my dad has, which I really hope he keeps that trilogy for a long time, because those are the best forms of the movie, period, and why Disney hasn't decided, well, probably because of this movie, New Hope, because Fox, I think, still owns the distribution rights to some of it, at least, why they don't re-release that trilogy in its best form, which I think is pretty universally, the 90s re-releases on the VHS, not the Laserdisc ones or anything like that, but the VHS re-release. Awesome fucking time. And for number 3, obviously, if you're going to have a war between Star Wars, the other one's probably Star Trek. So for me, I've always been a Trekkie, and mostly it comes down to the fact that I watched this movie as my first Star Trek experience. I'm talking, of course, the best Star Trek movie, period, The Wrath of Khan. My dad had the VHS set that had it was like the red with the black, and on the one side was the Enterprise refit. I think it was the Enterprise A anyway, and the other side was like the planets and stuff. And in that set, the motion picture was ruined. Thankfully so, because if I'd probably watched that first, I may have never actually gone on and watched all the rest, because that one kind of sucked. The first one I was able to watch was Wrath of Khan, and even then, I barely knew anything about the characters, and at the end, it still fucking wrecked me when Spock died, and they play, the bagpipes, and they roll the tube down into the photon torpedo bay, and I was like, it just wrecked me as a kid, and then I binged watch all the other ones, including The Undiscovered Country, which I think the second or third best Star Trek movie, because it's frickin' awesome. Because it has Klingons and, the Bird of Prey, and it's awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. But yeah, The Wrath of Khan really kickstarted my love affair with Star Trek, and I've watched all the Star Trek series, all the Star Trek movies, and I cannot wait to see where that universe goes, even though I'm not super pumped about Discovery, but it all started with The Wrath of Khan. My number 2 movie speaks to me equally as a cinema buff as it does me as a history buff, and that would be Gladiator from Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe. Amazing military scenes, especially the opening one with the Roman Empire versus the, German nomad warrior culture people, and, just absolutely capturing, the Rome atmosphere in a way a lot of movies try and fail to do on an epic scale, like that opening shot coming into the, down the thoroughfare where they're introducing the new emperor and stuff. That was freaking awesome. I mean, I was probably 10 or 11 when I saw it for the first time. Plus the amazing choreography and the actual Gladiator scenes. Like that, Are You Not Entertained? The final fight with Commodus, the Hannibal Siege one where they all, like, link their shields together and stuff like that. Just amazingly well shot and an awesome movie that I still always end up going back and watch at least once or twice a year because it's so freaking cool. And lastly on my list, as I mentioned, the first one is an action movie in the vein of John Wick, so of course it's fucking Die Hard. Still to this day, the movie is the gold standard of action movies. You have an everyman hero in an impossible situation. You got frickin' Alan Rickman as the bad guy. Are you shitting me? The only person that could come close is the bad guy in the third movie, and that's Jeremy frickin' Irons. Not to mention the awesome frickin' one-liners. Like, there are tons in that movie. Amazing moments that are just, it just blows my mind how good this movie is. And the fact that it's kind of a remake of, or a reboot of, like, a book that almost had its own movie, like a decade or two before, just kind of makes the story of it even cooler. And I cannot wait to watch it again, because after watching this and having all these movies run through my head now, I'm probably going to end up watching them all, and this one I'm probably going to watch like twice. Alright, so that's my list of my top 10 favorite movies. Anything I left out that you were shocked by? Something I should check out that I haven't watched yet? Also, let me know your list in the comments below, as well as the answers to those two first questions. Like the video if you're in the mood, subscribe, stay up to date with all my latest videos, shoot me topics over on Twitter at MrWartburg, and I'll see you next week.